Hello, Lazio all over the world. I'm smiling, but I shouldn't be smiling. I don't know what is worse. Lazio losing against Salernitana, Milinkovic-Savic missing the derby, or me doing a podcast with Alistair McKenzie. I struggle to understand what is worse, but don't know. Alistair, what's your take? What's the worst thing about Sunday?
Um, well, we had an absolute nightmare getting into the stadium on Sunday, which can maybe talk about in a little bit. Lazio have decided to make it almost impossibly difficult for anyone who doesn't live in Rome to attend Lazio matches this season. And then those people who did have to queue for 2 or 3 hours to get hold of a ticket would have gone in and seen a game where pretty much everything that could have gone badly did go badly.
Can we
So
talk about
unexpected as well.
Can we talk about the ticket situation? Is it something for people who doesn't live in Italy or who doesn't live in Rome?
Well, I can explain what happened yesterday. I mean, this is a new thing because this definitely wasn't going on in previous years. But essentially, we had a friend Karsten who's been on the podcast. Did a podcast with you on Friday, and he's from Denmark. So this is why we feel it's definitely worth mentioning this in the podcast for international listeners who might want to come to Lazio games. But Lazio said you cannot buy tickets online unless you're a resident of the Lazio region. So it's very easy for me and you to get tickets because we have an address here. Anyone who doesn't, you have to queue up at one very small ticket office from 2 o'clock the day of the game. So that's 4 hours before kickoff. And it got to about half an hour before kickoff, and then they said anyone who doesn't have the Milinovic card, which is the kind of fan card, you can't buy tickets. At which point they clarified that actually foreign people could still buy tickets, but any of the Italians from different regions in Italy weren't allowed to. But there was a queue of hundreds of people. Even we were about 10 minutes late to the game because of waiting to get Carson a ticket. And there was still, when we left at 6 o'clock, a queue stretching all the way back across the kind of the street where the ticket office was. So it means that hundreds of fans won't have got in, or they'll have got in late. And it's a real mess of a situation. I saw a lot of people angry on Twitter about it who tried to get tickets for the game. A lot of people would have given up who would have liked to be there. It makes absolutely no sense, and it's an operation that is like an amateur team playing in a kind of village somewhere. That's the level of operation we're talking about. Complete disorganization, no information for anybody. Is a complete mess. So the club needs to sort that out because it was a complete disaster yesterday.
I think it's a mix of responsibility as usual because Serie A set this type of restriction for this mesh. And honestly, I don't understand why. Plus, Lazio obviously need to step up and increase the number of people working on Sunday to sell tickets because the two things combined together has become a disaster. And then we complain that there are not enough Lazio fans at the stadium. Yesterday, to be true, there were 40K, something like that, a little bit more. But I mean, it could have been much easier if Carson or other people would have been able to buy the tickets Friday, Thursday, online, etc., etc. Things that really doesn't make sense. I could understand in the 80s, but now with internet, you can do everything on the phone except buy tickets.
Yeah, and there's no reason that I can see that for a foreign resident, for example, you can't buy the ticket with your international details on it. Your details are still printed on every ticket, and then you have to combine that with ID when you go in. I don't see what's different here. So anyway, that's a complete mess of a situation. I know what you're saying, that the reason those kind of rules happen in the first place isn't to do with Lazio necessarily, but they can come up with a much more effective system of dealing with it than they have done. So anyway, that was the build up to the game for me and Karsten on Sunday for what was so we're already in a bit of a bad mood before the game even started, and then yeah, I mean, where do you want to start with our match review? Because there's quite a lot to go through here.
I will start from the starting 11. Were you surprised to see Luis Alberto starting?
I did wonder if that might happen. I mean, I think we touched on this last time with Sergej, because he was the yellow away from the
Yeah.
derby. I actually didn't really expect that he would be benched altogether, to be honest. But no, I wasn't too surprised, I guess, when I saw the team. It makes sense. It's being a bit cautious. But then obviously, if you're picking that team, you want to make sure you get what you want from that, which is still a strong enough team to win the game and still an outcome where Milinkovic-Savic doesn't get booked. And ultimately, we didn't get either of those things.
No, no. What's your take on Luis Alberto performance?
Frustrating. I think the assist was brilliant. I think it's the kind of pass that only Alberto can really produce in the team, maybe Sergej as well. But that kind of vision and balance to the pass was fantastic. But then I don't know. I felt like otherwise he failed to assert his authority on the game quite in the way that we would have liked. And there's at least one moment, possibly more, I can remember, where we actually gave the ball away in quite dangerous situations as well. I don't know. How did you feel about it?
Yeah, for me, he did that assist and pretty much that was it. All the rest was very bad. He lost ball very often in the first half and very dangerous balls. And we know that he's not very good in recovering balls and defending. So, yeah, not a great performance. And this brings me back to the question I asked you before. Were you surprised? Because I was hoping that Milinkovic-Savic wouldn't start, but I thought Basic should be starting. Luis Alberto didn't play the last 3 matches because he wasn't 100% fit. And maybe that's the reason why yesterday he played poorly. And so I was thinking, okay, Vecino, I understand completely, but maybe close to Vecino, Basic could have started. And the other thing, Alistair, I don't think he understand he played poorly because he's a smart guy, right? And still, when he was subbed, you can see that he was furious. I mean, we should have been furious of Luis Alberto performance. Not Luis Alberto should be upset because he was benched. I mean, I would have taken him off at the end of the first half, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, I think at halftime we were where we wanted to be, though. That's the crazy thing about this match is it wasn't just a game that we lost unexpectedly at home to a team that you really anyone with top four aspirations really has to be beating. But the fact that it was 1-0 at halftime, and yeah, at that point it hadn't been a commanding performance, a perfect performance, but I think it would have been a bit harsh to rip Alberto off the pitch at that point. But then again, we did get to that stage, didn't we? Not too long afterwards, and Sarri did feel like he had to make those changes. He did feel like he had to inject something more into that midfield. Made the changes to have Vecino in as the playmaker, to have Milinkovic on, obviously. And to be honest with you, when those changes were made, I was pretty happy about it at the time. I thought we do need something to change in there. At 1-1, I think it was at that point. Get a bit of a grip on this game, get Sergej involved in the attacks to start threading things together again. But it got even worse from there, didn't it?
When I saw him warming up, I couldn't believe it. Honestly, I thought this is a huge mistake. We are Lazio, we are not Roma. We knew what was coming, right? We knew it. Last week, I think pretty much every Lazio website published this article that Manganello last year booked Zaccagni, who was one yellow card close to suspension, and he missed the penalty. He missed the derby. We knew it was coming when Milinkovic-Savic was coming in. So I totally disagree. I don't understand the sub from Sarri. I mean, at that point, well, then make him start. It would have been a better solution. You had Basic, you had other options, and yeah, I don't understand. We lost anyway, so this substitution. It's a terrible decision that could affect Lazio not only this Sunday but next Sunday and affect the table and the final result of Lazio. So honestly, I don't understand what Sarri made this time.
Yeah, I mean, then again, Sarri sent Milinkovic on in the expectation, I guess, that with 25, 30 minutes to go, he can get through that period without yellow. And let's be totally honest about this, he should have, because the incident he was yellow carded for wasn't a yellow card offence. And I think you've seen a lot to prove that in the kind of hours that have passed since then, because it's rare, really, especially in the Italian media, to see an incident like this where almost universally everyone's saying the same thing. I was even reading your favorite paper, Gazzetta, this morning, and they're also in agreement that it's not a yellow card. Corriere dello Sport, I was reading, not a yellow card, And so it's not just Lazio fans who are saying this. I thought it says a lot as well, the fact that nobody really wants to speak about it. Sarri said, I can't say anything or else they'll ban me for 6 months. Even Lotito today was asked about it. He said he doesn't want to talk about it. Zaccagni made a comment saying something like the referee couldn't wait to get his cards out as soon as he was on the pitch. And it's really disappointing. In a year where we've already had a lot of controversy around this kind of stuff, it's only going to fuel that fire. We've talked before about the number of yellow cards Lazio have been receiving in general compared to other teams. But this one is actually a moment that, like you say, it can impact the season, because this isn't a derby like any other coming up, is it? It's a derby where the two teams are so close together in the table. It could have a real impact by the end of the year.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously not a yellow card. I don't know even if it's a foul, but Magagnello has done it in the past already, so it's not a surprise. It's embarrassing that the Serie A opted to select this referee for this match. But I mean, who is the biggest enemy of the Italian Football Federation? Claudio Lotito. Who's the team of Claudio Lotito? Lazio. How many mistakes referee have made against Lazio? Plenty. So, we could all see this coming. And Manganiello should be banned and not be able to referee a match in Serie A ever again. But we know it will happen. I'm pretty sure next Sunday he will be happily on the pitch. And maybe Gravina will call him this week and say, hey, good job. So, Serie A is a farce, if you want, because we know what's going to happen. But Gazzetta said it was a mistake. Corriere dello Sport said it was a mistake. But I didn't see huge titles like when referee make mistakes against Inter, Juve, Milan, and Roma. This will be gone tomorrow. Nobody will think about it. And the only team who will be penalized is Lazio, who's going to play the derby without Ciro Immobile and without Milinkovic-Savic, two best players on the pitch. So this is a huge mistake.
Yeah, I mean, no, I absolutely agree. Yeah, like I said, it's never yellow cards. The inconsistency was always very frustrating in this match as well, because I think there have been plenty of people flagging up incidents in the last 24 hours about this, but there's a challenge on Lazio in the first half.
Yeah.
Guy almost got his kind of kneecap taken out, and it wasn't even given as a foul. So it makes absolutely no sense in what's ostensibly still supposed to be a contact sport that Sergej Milinkovic-Savic makes a pass and as a guy's running into him and it's given as a yellow against him. I mean, fine, if you want to be a soft referee, then give it as a foul, but you you can't yellow card people for that, or else every game you'll end up with 6 players on each team. The one thing I would say though is I am concerned that this whole theme is gonna start to creep in too much, and I don't think it's healthy for the team, for the fans, for anyone. The idea of the world's against us. There's this big conspiracy. Serie A's out to get us. I think Lazio's best chance of having a good season involves managing to rise above that and not complaining endlessly about every referee we face from now until the end of the season. I think that's only going to make matters worse. I think it's only going to make the players more agitated on the pitch. If they start behaving and feeling like the world's gone against them all the time, I think this team plays at its best when it's confident, when it's calm. And I think yesterday, part of the reason that things fell apart so much was that the atmosphere became so frenetic that the players just didn't seem to have any cool left in them. They were, by the end of the game, it could have been 4-1. The chances that Salernitana had. So I'm wary of that. I don't want it to become a dominant theme of every game this season now.
Especially because the referee made a couple of bad mistakes, but I don't think Lazio lost because of the ref. So this is the biggest concern. After the equalizer of Salernitana, Lazio got, I don't know why, out of control. Even the goal of Candreva, it's surprising. It's not only Marusic out of position, it's Provedel out of position, it's everybody out of position. And from there, the team stops playing. So that's what concerned me more, because is it tiredness because Lazio played on Thursday? Is it, don't know, confidence that they already won the match? Is it players that are focused already on the derby or on Feyenoord? I don't know, but second half of Lazio has been terrible, awful.
Well, it was exactly what we've been praising Lazio for stopping doing this season. That after the Europa League games, so far we've done a very good job of putting away teams quite easily. And this was exactly the kind of performance and result we were getting last year after Europa League matches. So that's a big disappointment, especially from the position of being 1-0 up. Because I think we're all sick of blackouts and talking about that kind of, the mental collapses and so on. Which, was obviously a big defining theme of the Inzaghi era. But when you're looking at it now, the cold light of day, conceding 3 goals in 20 minutes when you've previously conceded 5 all season, that really is as close as Lazio have come to a blackout as they have done in a long time. That is an astonishing period where everything that's defined this season, this team this season, everything that's been their identity this season, the solidity, the calmness, leadership, the quality and confidence on the ball, that all deserted them in that period. And 20 minutes to let 3 goals in it's kind of inexplicable. It's kind of like a mini Serie A version of the Midtjylland disaster all over again.
Yeah, even because, as I mentioned, all 3 goals come from bad placement of Lazio defender. I mean, Marusic, nobody said it, but had a terrible match. I mean, 2 of the 3 goals are mistakes of Marusic. And I have to be honest, even Provedel didn't have a good match yesterday. The first goal, he's out of position. The second one, you can see he's moving on the left while Fazio hit on the right, so he's a little bit surprised. So I don't know. I hope it's just a bad day, but 7 days before the derby it's really concerning. So I don't know what happened to our defense. but this is scaring going forward, right?
Well, you just have to hope it is a blip, as the Midtjylland game was. I mean, look, that that is something we can now look at and say, okay, that was crazy. It made no sense, and it came in the middle of what was otherwise a very good run. And there's no real reason that that shouldn't be the same here. Um, but yeah, I think that the team does need to avoid that freneticism. Um, Around things going against them and getting so frustrated with every time the whistle blows or every time something doesn't go their way. I think they really need to rise above that as much as they can. I don't know. Do you think there's any element of were they lacking a bit of the leadership maybe of Chiro and Sergej when those two guys aren't on the pitch? It's not just their quality, but their experience, the leadership. I mean, they are the two captains in this team.
Yeah, but yesterday we had both Pedro and Vecino playing, two very experienced players. And, probably today we were talking about something different. If Vecino scored one of the two huge chances he had, huge chances, especially the first one when we were 1-0. If he scores there in the beginning of the second half, the match is over, right?
Yeah. Yeah, he just had way more time than he thought he did, didn't he?
Don't know. He was convinced he already scored, and I was already ready to shout and celebrate. So didn't see that coming. Vecino so far played really, really well, and when he had the chance, he hardly missed it. He had two huge chances, and that would turn the match around. So that's the turning point, probably, right? Vecino scoring at the beginning of the second half. It's another match.
Yeah, you're probably right. But I do also think that this is the first time, I mean, quite rightly after the Atalanta game, even the Midtjylland game, being complimentary about how the team's performing without Chiro. But yesterday was the first time since that injury that we have seen that forward line really not working. I think Zakanya had another good game. His goal was excellent, but I thought Pedro was poor, and I thought Felipe Anderson in particular was pretty much invisible. He was really struggling to get involved in the game, and the way that he was against Atalanta. That was the perfect performance from a guy you're wanting to perform that role, and it's frustrating with Anderson more than anyone because we know this is his problem. We've heard Sarri talk about how this is one of the most talented players he's ever coached in his career, but he just lacks consistency, and I think we saw that again because how can you go from playing that well against a team as good as Atalanta to hardly laying a finger on a Salernitana team that's been struggling a lot of this season? So that was a disappointment. I'm not going to blame him for the defeat, but I think it was a reminder that this isn't a problem that we've fixed just because of that Atalanta result.
Yes and no. I mean, if Vecino scores that goal at the beginning of the second half, it's a very good assist from Felipe Anderson. I didn't think Felipe Anderson played that bad. To be honest to you, is there one player yesterday that you think, okay, he played well? No, there isn't. Cataldi made a lot of mistakes and was nervous again. I don't know why. Romagnoli didn't control the defense as he usually do. Pedro had some chances, but was a little bit too quiet in the second half.
I think Zakanya was okay.
Was okay because he scored, but in the second half, he could have been more decisive, I thought. And then, Alistair, the other question is, I have two questions for you. The first one, you're losing and you make only 4 subs. Why? Don't you think there is anyone on the bench that could help me? Luca Romero, for example, I think about. And the other thing, even more concerning, is why the last substitution you make is taking off Maruzic and bringing Isai. I mean, don't tell me that you hope Isai can change your match, right? So why do you waste a substitution like that? Do you think Maruzic is going to get a red card? Why?
Yeah, I mean that was all I could think with that. Really, was it was a typical Inzaghi change. As soon as he got that yellow card, that he just doesn't trust him to lose it. Probably as well because he knows how damaging that would be. There's not exactly an abundance of left backs in this team, so you don't want one of you've got getting sent off. Yeah, no, it's a good point, and I think especially coming off the game on Thursday because we've not spoken. I listened to you and Carson having a good chat about it, but I was really impressed with Romero's introduction on Thursday from the bench, and I think he kind of showed a real tenacity that he previously hasn't always. He looked so determined to
Yeah,
really take advantage of his minutes on the pitch. And so, yeah, I feel like if you're not rewarded for that kind of impact, then when are you going to be rewarded? So that was frustrating, especially like you're saying, when the forward line wasn't really working. Um, I guess the change he wanted to make was Cancellieri coming on the right wing, and probably after Thursday as well, Cancellieri's lost a bit of credit in terms of his potential as being a striker because Sarri gave up on that pretty quickly on Thursday. Um, so yeah,
and
I don't know. It was really a day where everything went wrong, and I guess we have to include Sarri in that as well. The,
yeah,
the
yeah,
selection, the changes, the substitutions.
yeah. I thought so. I thought so. Honestly, Um another name. I thought Cataldi was playing badly. He was very nervous. Why don't you bring in Marcos Antonio, who can maybe find a little bit of playtime and move the ball faster? Maybe he's less nervous than Cataldi, which was pretty easy. And try Luca Romero, and don't bring in Milinkovic-Savic. If you decided that Sergej doesn't start, then he's not playing today. So that's, I mean, he's human. I think Maurizio Sarri is one of the best manager we ever had, but he's human. He makes mistake. So I thought yesterday he made a couple of mistakes. And the thing that concerned me more, Alistair, is that this is a very important week because there's not even also only the derby. There's also Feyenoord Lazio that will be decisive for the Europe League, right? So the positive thing is Milinkovic Savic is going to play 90 minutes against Feyenoord, right? He doesn't have to rest. The negative thing is there's the derby coming without Ciro Immobile, without Milinkovic Savic. We lose Alberto playing badly. Uh, it's going to be tough, right? So Lazio have to recover. I don't know if mentally they're going to be able to do that. But yeah, it's an important week, and on Monday, I don't think the team is very happy about that.
Well, just to pick up on one thing from today's news, off the back of what you just mentioned, you say no Sergej, no Ciro. Well, Ciro was asked about that today, this morning, and he said about being back in time for the derby, and he said, "Let's hope so." Now, I think that would be insane to throw Ciro back onto the pitch if he's not completely ready. We can't take any risks with that, but what do you think of those comments? Is he just being cheeky, or is there a real chance we might actually see Chiro in time?
I think it's too much, but don't know. Don't know. I would be happy to see him on the bench, but yep. So we're gonna see. I was just reading that, as I was expecting, Aya said that Manganello did nothing wrong. So here we are. It's a show. I mean, how can you not say that the yellow card of Milinkovic Savic is not a bad mistake?
Yeah, Aya being the Association of Referees, by the way. Yeah, well, it's not something you can appeal against as well. A yellow card,
No.
it's kind of the worst possible situation because you're stuck in a rut where it's as damaging as a red card would be, but there's nothing you can do about it, whether that's with VAR or whether that's with an appeal or whatever. So So we just have to put up with it. I mean, look, it's. I think the team. Uh, I would say this. I think from what we've seen so far from this team this season, I think we're in a better position to deal with the absence of Immobile and Sergej than we have been for a long time. I mean, there have been times in the past where the idea of not having either of them at the same game would be completely catastrophic. Um, whereas now I think there is a good team behind them. There's a good team behind them that can still do a job. Now, can they do a job in a game as big as the derby? Is another question. And I think Milinkovic-Savic is built for games like that as well.
Yeah.
He's perfect for games like that. It's going to be a really, really tough week. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't really know. I feel like kind of Lotito and Sari here. I don't really know what more I can say about the situation because we're powerless. There's nothing that can be done about it.
Considering the importance of Thursday's match, would you rotate the team or play the best 11?
Well, I mean, at least now you can play Milinkovic-Savic and not have to worry about that.
Yeah.
I mean, to be honest, I would expect a similar kind of changes maybe than what we saw against Midtjylland. I don't know if Antonio will start again. But maybe, yeah, Husai coming in. We maybe get to see Romero off the bench again. But yeah, we don't have tons and tons of options right now. Perhaps Basic could get a start, something like that. But you're right. We don't want to. It's a difficult balancing act because Sarri has to do this in such a way that he's got the full available team for both games. On the flip side, Roma are in a similar position. They have to win their last game to qualify from their group as well. Yes, they don't have a trip as well as that, but they do have to win. So their European game is also very important. They also don't have enormous kind of depth of options and rotation. So we'll see. But then again, they're not missing any massive players at the moment, as far as I can think off the top of my head.
Dybala.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, he's a long-term one, but yeah,
Wijnaldum.
yeah.
Well, he never played, right?
Yeah, I don't know if he counts if he's never played. Yeah.
But yeah, it's a difficult thing. To wrap it up, it was good to see the Curva Nord calling the players under the Curva, and instead of blaming them for this defeat, they encouraging them for the derby, the coming match. So that was a positive sign, right? Because, after a performance like that, the fans could be upset because we mentioned it before. It's hard to find a player who played well yesterday. So that's a positive sign, right, Alistair?
Yeah, and it's a reminder of they're not invincible. They're on a good run there, 8 games unbeaten, but yeah, we've said all along, there's no way the unbeaten run, the run of clean sheets, that all has to end somewhere. Yeah, okay, we'd rather it didn't end at home to Salernitana, but
That
here
was
we
a
are.
surprise.
It's a
Yeah.
reminder that they're not invincible, this team, and they can't be complacent for a minute. So yeah, let's hope that now, if we're trying to put an optimistic spin on this, these are 2 games, Salernitana and Midtjylland, first one, where Sarri can say time and again, that's the danger. That's the danger of complacency, that can happen. So I think we can be 100% sure the team won't be complacent for the Rome derby.
I hope so.
So
Anyway,
it's really just a quality question at that point.
Anyway, again, we had the chance to win 3 matches in a row, and we were able to do it again. This is the thing that concerns me more.
When was the last time? Do you know?
With Sally, it never happened.
Interesting. I don't have that answer ready. I asked that like I knew, but I don't know.
But yeah, this is a terrible sign for me. It's true, Europe League takes off energy, focus, etc. But come on, you played Salernitana. So you have Salernitana, Midtjylland, and you weren't able to win 3 consecutive matches. I mean, that's what concerned me more.
And yeah, I mean the table's kind of taking shape a bit as well now. Inter are making a comeback as you'd expect. Even Juve are starting to kind of win some games now and then.
3 in a row.
So he can't really he can't really afford to slip up like this. Teams will make these kind of slip ups. I mean, look at Milan last night, losing to Torino. It is a reminder that these kind of things will happen, not just us, but to other teams as well. So, but yeah, the Roma game is going to be a huge one. Mourinho's got a really poor records head to head against top 7 teams. Well, Roma have generally for quite a long time now. So yeah, it's a hard one to call. I'm not going to call it.
As usual, it's a derby, so it's always tough. I hope we won't see the Lazio of last derby, right? That's not acceptable.
No. Well, yeah, the 2 derbies last year are very, very different, obviously. It's I don't know. Yeah, it's a real style clash. This clearly. The thing I think we might be concerned about is the physicality of that Roma team, their prowess from set pieces in particular, and the way they're with the combination of Pellegrini's delivery and the massive guys they've got in the air like Smalling and Abraham and Ibanez and all these guys. That's an area we'll really miss Milinkovic. I think is actually.
Yeah.
Forget about his attacking prowess, his ability to actually help defend those kind of situations where Roma are so dangerous. So, yeah. Well, let's just hope. Let's just hope.
We are not even the best defense anymore with these 3 goals allowed. It's Juventus.
Well, at least we're more entertaining to watch than they are. That's for sure.
Okay, Alistair, I think we can wrap it up here. Thanks again for joining me. Thanks everybody for listening. Remember, you can review and listen to our podcast on Spotify, Spreaker, iTunes. And if you want to support us, patreon.com/Lazio Lounge. Membership starts at $2 a month. See you after the derby, guys. Take care.
Cheers.